Hey, good morning, Restaurant Coach Nation. It's another gorgeous Friday. So glad you could join me today. Remember, every Friday I go live here inside the Restaurant Coach Nation to do a little training for you on Fridays. Now, please take into account there's holidays or travel schedules or travel demands on myself, where I have to go out and work with clients that we might not have training on Friday, but I'm going to try to do my very, very best to make sure that you get some really cool tools to add to your toolbox so you can take your restaurant to the level you know it can be. So every Friday, make a mark on your calendar, 9 a.m. Pacific time. 9 a.m. Pacific time in the United States. We're going to go live inside the Restaurant Coach Nation, do a little training. Today, I got a really fun one for you. This one is how to train like a badass. How to train like a badass, because your restaurant depends on it. So I put out a poll in the Restaurant Coach Nation, and I asked people what were some of the topics you want me to cover on the training. And I think the top three was marketing, training, and also menu was the top three so far. If you have any suggestions for what you'd like to see in the training on the Fridays here inside the TRC Nation, just drop me a DM inside the TRC Nation, and I'll be more than happy to add it to the list of stuff we're going to work on. But today I want to teach you how to train like a badass, because I think training is probably the number one problem most people have. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, right? All restaurant success is not rocket science. It's just people science. You hear me say this a lot, say it in all my books. All business problems are people problems. Well, a lot of those people problems can be saved if you just basically train your team a little bit more. Okay. If you've never met me before, if this is your first time joining the Restaurant Coach Nation, I am Donald Burns. I am known as the Restaurant Coach. I have been in the industry for 42 years. Oh my God, I can't believe it. And I've been a restaurant coach now, and I started restaurant coaching back in 2009. So I've been doing this for 13 years. I'm also a former restaurant owner. I've been a consultant. I've been a chef with Wolfgang Puck. I have quite a few books out. My first book and my second book are both Amazon bestsellers. My first book, Your Restaurant Sucks. My second book, Your Restaurant Still Sucks. And my third book is coming out this month. It's going to be like the end of the trilogy. It's called Your Restaurant Culture Sucks. And I'm done with the Suck series. So that's all I got to say about that. Let's always start off with a quote. Here's the quote for today. We don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training. I have a bunch of a bunch of sayings I have all the time. One of the sayings I have my members, they probably could repeat it verbatim all the time, is we don't train people until they get it right. We train them till they can't get it wrong. Most people have bad habits. And unfortunately, we talked about this on our last call, the last session we did was all about a little bit about hiring. We talked about the HHS kind of, framework, which was, we looked at 3 traits for dynamic teams. We looked at humble, hungry, and smart. There's a lot of stuff that goes in behind training or hiring, and I'll go into those a little bit more on some future trainings. The thing I want you to always remember is that you need to train your team a lot more, because when you hire for skill, you hired someone who has a bunch of experience. You don't know if that was a good experience or bad experience. You're just based on looking at a resume, because I've made this mistake too. I needed a line cook. I go through the applications. I find a guy had 4 years line cook experience. Oh my God, perfect. I need someone who has perfect line cook experience. Oh my God, they're going to be a godsend. They're going to save me. And then I hired a person that had 4 years experience. And what do you think happened? They were just a train wreck. They were just sloppy. They had terrible knife skills. It was horrible, horrible, horrible. And then I end up, I try to help them out as much as I could, but, just sometimes these habits are so bad. You just got to do what's best for your brand, and you got to move on. So here's the number one thing about hiring is always hire for personality and then train the skill. And then in this session, we're going to talk a lot about training. So the first thing I want to do is I want to also introduce, and I've talked about this. This is like the foundational framework of all my coaching programs. It's called the 3P process, or the 3P framework. All right, the 3P framework is definitely, and if you have a problem in your restaurant, I will tell you right now, it is hidden inside this 3P process. It's always people, product, process. Just like a 3 combination lock, if I gave you a 3 combination lock, I said open the lock, you have to have the numbers in order to open the lock. Well, the 3P framework, this is the kind of like the lock for restaurant success. And you got to have them in the right order. So many people have these things totally backwards. They usually focus on product first, which I understand because every restaurant has a menu, and then they try to do a little bit of processes, but then they go kind of back to the people part a little bit, and they never really solidify each section. I kind of call most restaurants have, I guess I would call it the kind of Swiss cheese kind of methodology. They have like a bunch of holes in their processes. So the people part's not right. The product part's got a few holes in it. I mean, they got a good menu, but they don't understand their gap between theoretical and actual food cost. And then also maybe their processes. They got some recipes. They got a few checklists, but they don't have any accountability. They don't know how to implement. They don't know how to have really good communications with the team. They don't have any kind of strategic planning. They're not using budgets properly, or their P&Ls. They don't know which KPIs to look at, key performance indicators. So again, most people have gaps or holes in this 3P framework. And my job as a coach is always to kind of help them fill in the gaps. That's the biggest thing. That's basically what coaching really is. It's basically to figuring out where you are now, where do you want to be, and we make a plan, and we basically work the plan, and I hold you accountable to it. That's what a coach does. It's pretty simple. A lot of people think coaching is very complex. No, it's not. It's pretty simple. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? We usually work in 90-day blocks. And then, boom, just make a plan, fill in the gaps, figure out what you have, what you don't have, and then we make it happen. So today's session is going to be about training. And as you notice, training is really, really big into the people part of the 3P framework. And I will, again, reiterate, training is critical if you ever want to get to the point where you have a restaurant that doesn't run your life. Because most of the time, you're training people just till they get it right. And then you think they got it, or they tell you they got it. Oh, I got it. Okay. Yeah. And then they don't got it. And you end up going back and retraining. And then they say they got it. And so you let them go. And then they go back and you got to retrain them. It's constant, never ending thing where you're just kind of going back and forth. And it sucks. So get the training right. I'll tell you right now. And this is from 13 years of working with restaurants, working with over 2,400 independent restaurants around the world. The majority of the 3P framework, I will tell you now, the majority of the problems are always in the people part. I would say 80%. If I had to break it down into what part is the problem, 80% is people, 10% product, 10% process. That's usually how I break this down. Okay, so today we're going to talk about, when we talk about training, we're going to get a little kind of meta on this and kind of zoom out and talk what's known as about adult education or adult learning theory. Adult learning theory really changed the way I train my team and the way I train everybody when I understood how people process. You think that everyone learns the way you learn, okay? You think everyone learns the way you do. So you train people the way that you learn. And that is why your training program is stuck. It doesn't really work well. The first concept we're going to talk about is, I call it the two-sided coin concept. Whenever I'm training, or whenever someone's not doing something the way I want them to do, I always imagine I have a coin in my hand. And when I have a coin in my hand, there's two sides to every coin. Two sides to every coin. There's always heads and tails. Well, in our training coin, there's two sides to our training coin. And in the training coin, one side is they don't know. Now, every time someone's not doing something the way I want, the first thing I do is I imagine that I'm looking at this coin and I'm looking at the side that says they don't know. And who's responsible for that? Type in the chat. Who's responsible? If the team doesn't know, is it their fault or is it your fault? If you're smart, you're going to say it's your fault, not their fault. But you'd be shocked how many restaurant owners say it's their fault. I gave them a training manual, they didn't learn it, or I showed them and they didn't pick it up. All right, that's the cheap way out. That's the loser's mentality, is that it's their fault. No, the first side of our training coin is always it's my fault, right? They don't know. It's my fault. So what do? You want to make sure they know. You want to have an integrated, really, really solid training system. And I'm going to go into it a little bit more. But the first part of the thing is I always assume it's my fault. I didn't train them properly. I did not give them the information. Again, and you heard me say this in the beginning of this session. I said all business problems are people problems. The other side of that coin is all people problems are communication problems. Usually lack of communication or not clear communication and not setting my standards, my expectations properly and reinforcing them. So the first side of the coin is they don't know. That's my fault. Now, if I go back through and I train them, and I train them till they can't get it wrong and they still don't do it, it's the other side of the coin is they don't care. Here's the thing you have to remember. You cannot make people care. I know you think you can change people. I know deep in your heart, you think you can take these little lambs and turn them into lions. And sometimes you can. It takes a lot of work, and also the lamb wants to want to become a lion personally. But the thing you got to understand is that you cannot make people care. You can inspire people. You can lead people by example. You can invest in people, and then they have reciprocity, and then they start to, they basically invest back into you. But you can't make people care. And if you can't make people care, here's the thing you got to understand. If I've trained them till they can't get it wrong, I've given them every tool, every opportunity to learn, and they still don't get it right, then they're just not a good fit for my team. And it's time to let them go. And I know you're going to say, oh my God, I can't afford to let anybody go, Donald, coach, I can't afford to let anybody go. Yes, you can. You can. If they are hurting your culture, hurting you're basically disrupting the team, or they're a toxic force in your culture, you have to let them go. It's your responsibility to protect your brand, and you have to let those toxic people go. You have to. And I will give you on some of the trainings we're going to do, probably the next training we'll do next Friday. I'm going to show you how to recruit, how to really recruit. And I'm not talking about putting up a job ad, because job ad is passive and job ads don't work, because when you put up a job ad, you just get all the crap in the market. I'm going to show you how to actively recruit top talent on the next training, right? So that being said, two sides of our training coin. They don't know, that's my fault. They don't care, that's on them. And I have to make an adjustment, and I have to make sure that I remove them from the team. So let's talk about training. I want you to train like the life of your restaurant depends on it, because it really, really does. Training is one of those hidden things. Everyone thinks that, if I just get some checklist, if I just get, if I just get new people in my place. And there's tons of these restaurant marketers nowadays, and I see them all the time. I see their ads on Facebook. I see them on Instagram. I can get you 250 new guests to your restaurant by next week. All right, and let's just have a real heart-to-heart right now. Getting people to your restaurant is actually easy, and you don't have to give away the farm. The problem is that we get these, we go to these restaurant ploys and we get these new customers, but what if our team is still not trained properly? Now I got a bunch of new people in my restaurant that are pissed off because my service isn't to the level I want to be. You always remember, we talked about the 3P framework is critical. People, product, process. People is your team. It's the culture and training and hiring. Product is your menu and marketing. And then the process part is your systems and strategy. So many people think that marketing is the cure. I just need to market more. I need more people. I need more business. Yes, you probably do need more business, but you need the right business. And you also got to make sure your team's properly prepared. Remember I said putting the 3P framework in the right order? So many people want to just jump ahead to marketing, or they want to jump ahead to profitability. They don't understand that if I don't have systems in place, and this is half the reason why your team doesn't follow that damn checklist you got, is because you don't have the right people in the right place, and they're not trained. They're not bought into the culture. They don't have kind of accountability. They don't know why it's important. You just gave them a checklist and say, do this at the end of your shift, and okay, right? So let's talk about adult learning theory. There are 4 learning modalities. And here's the thing. Everyone has all 4, and you probably have 1 or 2 primary ways you learn. But you have to understand that not everyone learns the same way you do. And that's why most training systems suck, and most training systems don't work effectively in restaurants. Okay, there's 4 learning modalities. There's visual learners. These are the people that can kind of watch it and see it, and then they can learn it. There's auditory learners, people that can hear it and kind of comprehend and get it. There are kinesthetic learners. Those are the people that do best when they're moving. They kind of touch and feel stuff. And then you got people that are basically tactile learners. Tactile learners are people that have to process the information they get, and then they have to usually tend to write out and take notes. So I used to do every so often I go out and I'll do live events. The next one I'm speaking at in August, I'll be at the Western Food Expo in LA. And then after that, I will be at the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Show. I think it's the first part of November in Orlando. So I don't do as many live events as I used to, just because I focus more on my coaching programs with my members. But I do still go out and do a few sessions, and I always like doing the Bar and Restaurant Expo in Vegas every year too. So, and then I always do Hospitality Innovation Planet in Spain. I used to get upset when I would tell people, hey, write this down, because I'm a tactile learner. I like to write stuff down. So a lot of times you'll hear me say this, hashtag write this shit down. When I tell people write this shit down, and I'm always like, I used to get so mad. This was years ago because I really didn't understand this learning modalities at its deep level. But then I started really digging into it and wondering why. Because my job as a coach is to always take things apart and try to figure out how can I get you better results. So I started really digging into learning modalities and learning in adult learning theory. And I used to say, oh, write this down. And I'd look out in the audience and everyone just staring at me. And they wouldn't write stuff down. And I used to get mad about it. I mean, this is like quite a few years ago when I first started speaking. I used to get mad about it. But then I realized that, hey, listen, they're not tactile learners. Not everyone has to write shit down. Some people are visual learners. Some people are just auditory. Some people are kinesthetic. The thing is, we need all 4 learning modalities if we really want to sink in. Okay. How many people on this call, how many people on the training session can listen to an audiobook and 100% retain the information in it? Anybody? Sometimes, there's usually very few people can retain information when we're talking about like audiobooks. It's kind of like sometimes I get it's usually a kind of a mix. I'll get some people say, oh yeah, I can listen to an audiobook, and I totally get it. Some people are like, oh no, audiobooks don't work for me. I have to read books. And then I got some people say, I just can't read a book. I got to listen to a book. The thing is, you got to understand is, why is that? Because they have different learning styles. They have different learning modalities. Some people like to read a book. Now, some people like to read on Kindle. Some people need an old-fashioned hardcover book. And that's one of the reasons, I think all my books are available on audio. They're also available as paperbacks, and they're also available on Kindle. I still sell a lot of hard copy paperback books. And I would think with, the modern age, I would be able, there would be more Kindle versions available, but no, it's actually more paperback versions that have been sold out there than anything. And it's crazy. But then I started understanding why. People that are kinesthetic learners, they want to have an old-fashioned book in their hand. They want to have this thing in their hand. They want to feel they want to see it. They want to feel the pages. They want to, just kind of look at it like that. So you got to understand how people learn, and you got to be able to give them in all formats. That's why I have paperback books. I've got Kindle books for people that are just visual learners only. I've got audio books available for people that are just auditory learners. And that's the best way to learn, is you got to understand how people learn. This changed the game for me. So the other part of this adult learning theory, this is the first part. You got to understand there's 4 learning modalities. Everyone learns in all 4, but they have a primary and secondary one they use. The other thing you have to understand is there's 4 stages of learning. And this is why we kind of get stuck or we don't train properly. 4 stages of learning. Stage 1 is at the bottom, and it's called unconscious incompetence. This is that you basically don't even know what you suck at. You're blind to it. It's a blind spot, and the reason they're called blind spots is because blind spots are blind. Right. The next level, stage 2, is called conscious incompetence. This is you basically now you have a realization. Oh yeah, I know I suck at that. And then stage 3 is conscious competence. This is basically where you can do it with some effort. It takes you a little focus, a little concentration. And then stage 4 is what we call unconscious competence. This is when you can do it without thinking. If you've ever driven a stick shift, you've went through this, all 4 stages. You didn't even know what a stick shift was. So you didn't even know you suck at it. And then you got kind of, oh man, this is like complex. I suck at driving a stick shift. And then you kind of start learning it. You can have to coordinate stuff. You can do it with some focus. And then after a while of driving a stick shift, you can drive, you can shift gears, you can turn the radio on, you can talk to your friends, and it's pretty easy. Same thing. Most restaurant training goes up to stage 3 and then they stop. That's why your training does not stick as well as you want. You want to train them till they can't get it wrong. When I train people till they just get it right, that's stage 3. When I train people to stage 4, unconscious competence, that's where they can't get it wrong. I've trained it out. I've trained them so many times it becomes a habit. This is where you want to aim for. You want to aim for stage 4. And we're going to incorporate 4 different learning modalities when we do our training. The other thing I want you to remember is that each level of restaurant success, and there's 4 restaurant levels of success, each level of restaurant success has a corresponding level or culture that goes with it. Bad restaurants, which are really struggling, they have what's known as a toxic culture. Good restaurants, which is the majority of the market, 60% of all restaurants are good or surviving. That means they're on the P&L roller coaster. They have a good month, bad month, good month, bad month. They have a training culture. Great restaurants, they have what's known as a learning culture. And then the very top restaurants, the outstanding restaurants that are driving the market, they have a leadership culture. Again, most restaurants, 60% of all restaurants have a training culture. The other 20% at the bottom have a toxic culture. So if you notice, that's 80% of the restaurants in your market suck. That's why my book is Your Restaurant Sucks. Because 80% of restaurants in any market are either just surviving or struggling. 15% are great, and only 5% are outstanding, driving the market. Those are the ones that lead the pack. Those are the ones that everyone copies. Our goal is always to elevate our culture to either a learning and then eventually to a leadership culture. Now, you cannot jump from one to the other very fast. It takes a little bit of work. It takes a lot, especially the lower you are down, the lot more work it takes to get to that next level. If you have a toxic culture right now, this is where the team runs the restaurant, but they run the restaurant their way, not your way. It's a lot more work to get just to a training culture level. And then from a training culture or learning culture level, it's a little bit more work. And then to get from a learning to a leadership, it's a little bit more work. And you cannot jump you can't jump 2 sections at a time. Like you can't go from a toxic culture to a learning culture. I've never ever seen that happen in 13 years to over 2,400 restaurants. I've never seen that. It's always a kind of slight progression to the next level. And the downside is when people get to that great level, that learning culture, sometimes they backslide down to a training culture because the danger zone of all these different levels is the great one. Because when you made it to the great level and you're doing pretty good profit, 7 to 15% profit, a lot of people think they've made it. And so they take their foot off the gas. And what happens when you take your foot off the gas is you coast. And when you coast, you've basically condoned mediocrity. And when you condone mediocrity, you slip down right away. So what we always want to aim for is creating a learning culture. And the best way to do it is offering growth paths or growth plans. And the number one way I do this is we have a training methodology I teach, and it's called the 70-20-10 methodology. 70-20-10 methodology. And look at your training system you have right now, and you're going to see where you have gaps. And then the goal is always fill in the gaps. All right. So 70-20-10 methodology for training. Now, if you notice, 70-20-10 adds up to 100. So if your training's not sticking 100% and the team's not doing exactly what you want, how you want it, all the time consistently, you probably have a gap in your training. And I'll tell you where it's usually at. It's usually at the last, it's usually the last two, actually. So the 70% is hands-on training. Hands-on training is tribal. This is the way almost every restaurant in the world trains. They give you a training manual and they put you with somebody on the team, a trainer or a lead, and you follow them around for a few days and you do what they do and say what they say, and then you're turned loose. You might take you might take a quiz, you might take a test, you might do something like that, but usually it's not too interactive. 70% training usually only works on a couple different learning different modalities. Number one, the primary way hands-on training works is for kinesthetic learners, because they get to move and feel and touch stuff. And this is especially true with cooks. Most majority of cook training is usually kinesthetic learning. It's like, watch me, you do it, watch me do it, then you do it, then you watch me do it, then you do it. It's very, very kinesthetic. A little bit of visual as they're watching, and a little bit of auditory because they're hearing, but there's no constant reinforcement. And you might be a little visual in the sense that they give them a training manual or a packet or a recipe card, but that's very, very limited. Okay, so we're maybe 70%, we're maybe hitting primarily kinesthetic, we're hitting a little visual, and hit a little bit of auditory learning. And maybe if we're smart, we're letting them do a little tactile, write some notes down. So it does incorporate a little bit, but remember, one process does not make a great training program. So 70% of training programs will be following the 70-20-10 methodology. 70% is hands-on. And that's how most restaurants train. I would say 80% of restaurants, that's the only training they have. The 20% of our little methodology is called active feedback. Active feedback is where I'm actually sitting down with them at the end of the shift, at the end of the training shift, and I'm asking them questions. I might be having them do a quiz, but I'm also having them take notes. This is where we start reinforcing and basically start digging a little deeper into adult learning theory. So the 70% was mostly kinesthetic, maybe a little visual, a little bit of auditory. Now we're going to sit down and do 20% active feedback. So that's at the end of the shift, after I've had a training day. I'm going to sit down with them, or my trainer is going to sit down with them, and they're going to basically ask them questions and take notes. This is where I'm digging more into tactile learning. Did you know? Research has shown if you write stuff down in your own handwriting, you are 70% more likely to retain the information 30 days from now. That is the honest to God truth. That's why I'm so big on write this shit down, write this down, take notes, have a piece of paper. Because when you write stuff down in your own handwriting, you will retain. It digs down deeper into your neural pathways for retention. And that's what we want. That's why the 20% active feedback is so critical, because that's why we want to sit down with them and I want to ask them questions. Where'd you get hung up on this? Look at the recipe. Was there anything on the recipe card that you missed or that you had a question on? And I have a pen with me. I have paper with me. I'm asking them questions. I'm also taking notes on how they're responding to their training. I'm also, seemed like they were very open to this, seemed like they did not like this, so I can make adjustments to their training. Training isn't just I'm lecturing. Training is actually learning, watching, doing, and understanding how they're processing information and making adjustments. I have hundreds and hundreds of members in my coaching programs. A lot of them are in my accelerator program, which is a one-on-one program where they get one-on-one calls with me each week. I have to adjust my learning and my coaching style to each individual member because I have to understand how they learn, and I have to give them information in the best way. That's being a good coach. Being a good trainer in your restaurant's the same thing. When I'm sitting down doing active feedback, I'm actually watching them. I'm reading body language. I'm seeing where they got stuck and how can I accommodate them so they can learn at a better, deeper level. That's where the 20% enforcement, that 20% kind of, active feedback is really, really critical. And that's where a lot of people miss the boat. They don't sit down with people. It's like you give them that 70% hands-on kinesthetic. All right, thanks. Great job. See you tomorrow. And then they take off. No, you want to sit down, spend 20, 30 minutes with somebody at the end of the shift and really, 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 really dig in deep. What was their hangups? What they have problems with? And then watch their body language and then make adjustments so you can help them learn at a deeper level. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh my God, coach, you want me to spend 20, 30 minutes with somebody on my team at the end of their shift so they can learn at a deeper level? Yes, I do, because that's how you create a solid training program. You got to invest a little bit into your team. That means a little bit of your time to sit down and go over this stuff with them individually so they get it at a deeper level. And then the final 10% is called reinforcement. Reinforcement is where they can go and learn on their own. Most of the time now, I would say 80% of all restaurants have 70% of their training is basically that hands-on. So that's why most restaurants, their training sucks, because they're only being 70% effective. Now, a few more will add that 20%. So now we're at 90%, and they think, I got a really good training program. 90% is pretty good, but wouldn't you rather have 100%? I'd rather have 100% myself. So what I like to do is I like to add this little extra part. And this was a game changer for so many of my members of my coaching programs when they started doing this. 10% reinforcement. 10% reinforcement comes from visual learning, auditory learning, and tactile learning. But the biggest two is the visual and auditory. So what we do for 10% learning is we create a training tool. And it's a really, really, there's a bunch of training tools you can use to get this 10% kind of, reinforcement. Number one, you should have a training program or a training schedule, a training calendar, and you should have also a training checklist. So there's little things that they should be knocking off every day. This is how I get that 10% reinforcement. I basically cross the T's, dot the I's, make sure they have done all the stuff. And in my members areas I think it's for restaurant masterminds and also for Restaurant Accelerator, they have templates for all this stuff too. They have training checklist templates, and they also have training calendar templates too. So if you if you don't want to go the hard route, just reach out to me and we can talk about coaching and what are the programs that might be best for you as far as getting some of these templates too. But the number one thing you can do, and everyone can do here, is you can actually start implementing this Google Classroom. Google Classroom was a game changer. And why is Google Classroom a game changer? Is because it allows people to learn on their own and reinforce. They can go into Google Classroom, and the beautiful thing about Google Classroom is it's free. You can set up for free. So I set up this one. It's called Fake Restaurant Team Classroom, and and I got different topics, and then in each topic is basically a lesson. So like I've got I got onboarding, I got mission, core values, why, I've got cleaning, I've got menu training, and then I've got like service training, I've got prep, I've got culinary training, I got basic stuff, and I got culinary training advanced. You can set up as many different topics as you want. And remember, topics are basically the high level modules, and then inside each topic, you create little lessons. Now, is it going to happen overnight? Of course not. This is definitely I got to put in a little bit of time, but if you do it a little bit at a time, put in 1 or 2 lessons a week, you're going to find it's really, really great for you. And it's easy to do. And then after you put some time and effort into it, you're going to have a beautiful, beautiful classroom where people can go and reinforce their training. This 10% goes back to that adult learning theory about visual and auditory. Most of the Gen Zs and a lot of millennials, the way they love to consume information is by YouTube. YouTube has, it's a crazy number of views per day. And the reason being is that people like to consume information like that. So if I can set up a Google Classroom like this, and like if you notice on my Google Classroom, I've got usually, and I'm reinforcing my training methodology, the 70-20-10. I usually have a handbook in here they can download. I usually have a video that I just record from my phone real quick. And everyone has a smartphone, I'm pretty sure, or 99% of the world has smartphones. You have a mobile studio in your hand that you could easily just turn the camera on, turn the video on, and record yourself doing something. It's pretty simple. All right. And then you upload the video, and then I usually can do a quiz, just kind of remember, reinforce, ask, I want to measure my expectations. And I usually do a quiz, and I can use Google Forms for that. So it's pretty easy to do. All right. Setting up a Google Classroom basically goes on three. It's pretty simple. So number one, you're going to create an account. Go into Google, create an account, create a classroom. You're going to outline your topics, and then you're going to create material inside your topics. Now, what I like to do is have a written one first before I start messing around in Google Classroom. So I'll have a written out template. So I have my topics, like, onboarding, culinary, service, prep, cleaning, sanitation. And then inside each one, all right, onboarding, what I do, employee manual. I got to talk about sexual harassment. I got to talk about, filling out forms or request off times. And I just kind of make all my little topics inside after I got my topics, materials go inside each one. And remember, you always want to have 3 parts of content to each topic or each material inside. You want to have a written, so it's usually some kind of download that you can upload to the classroom. You want to have some kind of visual one, which is usually a video. And you want to have some kind of memory or quiz. This is how you get that, that super solid training program, is by when you reinforce this thing and have all this stuff in there. That's how you do it. Okay. So let me real quick show you some really cool tools that are going to help us kind of like get in here a little bit deeper and dig down into our training program more and more and more. Right. Toolkit. When I'm creating a training program, it's going to follow the 70-20-10 methodology. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I have an integrated training system. This is the integrated training system I recommend for everyone on the call today. You should have, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 part integrated training system. You should have, number one, a training calendar. Number two, you should have training manuals that you can actually hand out. You should have a training program. That's usually videos. Okay, you want to do that video reinforcement. You should have training quizzes to kind of test their memory and hold them accountable. Then you also should have learning plans. I want to have some kind of learning plan or development plan for everyone on my team so they know that there's growth and opportunity. The reason most people leave for turnover, and I know sadly you think it's because they went down the street for $1 or $2 more. It's not usually it. It's usually because they're disengaged, because they don't have a really involved training program. So they got bored, or they don't feel there's any growth or opportunity to learn and become better. There's 6 human needs everyone has. One of our human needs we have is we have this need for growth. We want to become better. We want to grow and develop. All right. We want to become a little bit better. I mean, I know you probably got some people on your team that you're probably thinking right now is that, oh, they don't want to grow at all. And they probably they might not want to grow a lot, but everyone wants to grow a little bit. Everyone wants to get a little bit better. Okay. So this is like my integrated training system. You got to have a training calendar, training manuals, training programs, which I would say is videos, training quizzes, and then you want to have an adult learning plan that outlines and goes back over to 70-20-10 methodology, a learning plan that covers, make sure I'm using all 70-20-10. Remember, 70 is hands-on, 20% is active feedback at the end of the training, and 10% is online reinforcement. They have a portal where they can go to and watch the videos as many times as they need to. And you'd be shocked. I mean, when I first started doing this, I found it changed the game as far as buy-in, and also it really cut back on retraining. Because I would train somebody on a Caesar salad, and I would do the 70% hands-on. We're there. 20% active feedback. We talk about it. What hang up. What problems did you have with it? Little techniques I saw, this and that. I'm watching their body language, seeing how they're responding. I gave them access to an online portal where they watch the video of how to make a Caesar salad, which is basically me making the Caesar salad, just like in the training I did with them. But I'm just talking out loud, like, all right, now we got all our mise en place here for our Caesar salad. I've got my 4 ounces of romaine. I got my 1 ounce of shredded Parmesan cheese. I got my 1 ounce of our Caesar dressing, jalapeno lime Caesar dressing. I've got, and I'm just talking out loud with all my stuff. And then I'm saying, all right, now we're going to put together And I'm going to say, I put I get a stainless steel bowl, mixing bowl. I'm going to put the dressing in the bottom first. I'm going to take the lettuce, put it on top, and they can actually watch me doing this. And that really, really helps enforce them. They see me like, all right, and I'm just talking out loud and I'm touching and I'm doing the process. And I usually you can buy a cheap tripod on Amazon for like $40 for your phone. So there's no reason that you can't do this. You can actually, if you want to invest, you want to upgrade it a little bit, you can invest in a couple really nice little microphones and have a microphone hooked up to yourself. I use a wireless lavalier, which basically hooks up to me, and it has a transmitter and it hooks up to my phone. It's super, super easy to set up. Probably cost me like the whole thing, the whole rig, the microphones, the tripod and everything probably cost me like $150, $200 tops, but it makes really, really high quality videos, which is great. Okay. So there's no reason you can't do this. All right. No reason why you can't. Of course, you can give yourself tons of excuses why you can't do it, but there's no reason why you can't actually start doing this stuff. Is it going to go as fast as you want? Of course not. It takes time to build this stuff up. You haven't done this forever. You probably don't have a lot of training videos, so it's going to take you a little time to get all this stuff going. But once you get stuff going, it's really, really great. Fair warning. Write this down. You will only get the restaurant you desire when you have trained your team to run the restaurant to your standards. Remember, your new philosophy is this: we don't train until they get it right. We train them till they can't get it wrong. That's your new philosophy. I want you to write that down and put it somewhere. If you have to tattoo it on your arm, that's fine. I want you to remember that. I don't train them till they get it right. I train them till they can't get it wrong. Everyone will tell you they got it. You keep going. You keep training until they don't have any other option but to do it your way. That's how you train people to that level. I don't train them until they say, okay, I got it. Nope. Let's just keep doing it. Let's do it 5 more times. Let's do it 10 more times. You train them till they can't get it wrong. So what's next? Of course, you're always welcome to check out any of my books. Your Restaurant Culture Sucks is coming out this month. Please, if you find some value in the Restaurant Coach Nation, invite some other like-minded people that are restaurant owners or operators to join us. You can always follow me on Instagram. I'm at Donald Burns on Instagram. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, listen to the Restaurant Coach podcast. And if you really want to speak to me about a coaching program, please just book a one-on-one strategy call. I always want people to talk to me before they jump into a coaching program, because my coaching programs, there's basically 3 different coaching programs, and not every program is right for everyone. All right. There's basically 3 paths. And just like everything else, my coaching programs use the 70-20-10 methodology. 70% is hands-on. It's usually live calls like this, live training sessions. 20% is reinforcement. That's usually a lot of times is, the one-on-ones where I do one-on-one calls, or we have like mastermind calls, usually twice a week. And then the 10% is that online portal where you have access to all my courses, all my videos. You can watch them as many times as you want. And it's really interesting. I have some members that say they can watch a module one time and they get it really great. Some people have to, just again, going back to adult learning theory, some people have to stop, watch a little bit, rewind it, write down some notes, and then move forward, stop, rewind it, listen to it again. It all depends on you. There's no right or wrong way to learn as long as you're learning. You cannot shove your learning profiles or your learning modalities down other people's throat. That's why that active feedback is so critical. I got to understand, how are they learning? How can I adjust their training so they learn better? Some people are going to need a notebook. Some people won't take notes. They don't have that tactile kind of learning modality. But if you can help them write down a little bit, they'll learn a little bit deeper if they can write stuff down in their own handwriting. And so if you ever want to talk to me about coaching, you can just go to my website. And I got basically 3 different coaching paths. I have what I call the fast path, which is the Restaurant Coach University. That's like 14 online courses. Of course, faster path is Restaurant Masterminds. We have 2 group calls each week. And there's a Monday educational call and a Thursday Q&A call. And the fastest path is the Accelerator program, where you get all my Accelerator deep dive training into menu design, food costing, take you down the road, down the rabbit hole on hiring, how to recruit better. Talk about marketing, a huge module called the Restaurant Marketing Machine. 15 modules about how to create a marketing program from scratch that you can do in-house. And so all these programs are available, but please just head to my website. You can check out more details on the programs. And also, if you really want to talk about getting into a coaching program, just book a strategy session with me. There's lots of buttons on my website at therestaurantcoach.com. You can jump in there. And every Friday, please join me here, pending holidays, or if I have to travel to work with a client. We will be doing the trainings here every Friday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That will not change. That time will always stay the same. 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time in the United States. Live training Fridays here. I'm basing the training on what you tell me. So please reach out. If you have any questions, you can always in the group area, you can always DM me. You can send me a message anytime you like. I love hearing from people in the group. Any way I can help you get the restaurant life you desire, because someone helped me. That's why I do this, is that, when I opened my first restaurant, I thought I knew it all. I didn't. I knew how to run a restaurant, but I didn't know how to build a business and build a profitable brand. And I was very, very fortunate to find a business coach who helped me understand a lot of the things I was missing, and it changed my life. So if I can help one person, if I can help you get the restaurant and life that you want, then I've felt like I've had a very, very meaningful life. And that's my goal, is to help independent restaurant owners, especially, break free from their restaurant running them, to make more and work less hours in your restaurant. That's my goal. And if anytime I can be of help to you, you can always DM me. You can always email me, Donald@therestaurantcoach.com. And I'm always willing to be here and help you and serve you. If there's anything else you need, don't be afraid to reach out. I appreciate everyone. Make sure to watch the replay. It'll be up for a little bit longer on the Restaurant Coach Nation, and then I usually take them down. And so if you want to really dig into deeper, watch this a couple times. That goes back to that 70-20-10 methodology, and learn at a deeper level. Everyone have a fantastic Friday. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you next week.